insurance agent says you're covered. You're disgusted and a little embarrassed. Your new car's been damaged in an accident.
Can I help you?
A guy behind you this morning decides to catch a few winks in rush hour traffic, and now your car has a personality of its own. Parts even fall off while the damage is being inspected.
Hi, nice to meet you. Can you come with me?
You think to yourself, oh well, a couple of dozen parts and some paint and maybe it'll look as good as new. But what really goes on behind the scenes? This is a story about a body shop. The inside story. Visual inspection is made again. This time by the production manager, who notes all parts to be ordered and any details of damage. Then the availability and the procurement of materials is coordinated. Meanwhile, the car moves to the frame alignment rack and is positioned completely on top of it. Special unibody clamps are then fastened to the unibody and the alignment rack, as well as laser beam alignment guns. Clamps are also attached to the rear of the unibody. And pneumatic hydraulic power posts are then positioned and chained to these clamps. A foot-operated remote control box is used to actuate tension to the chains attached to the rear unibody clamps. Buckles in the upper quarter are then gradually stress relieved. Constant inspection of these buckles is monitored, and the untrueness of the sheet metal is corrected by aggressive peening of the surface, complemented by gradual tension of the chains. A visual inspection of the trunk compartment's underbelly is performed and is stress relieved. The bumper is now removed, as well as any other damaged parts. Clamps are then repositioned to the trunk's welded seams, and staggered tension is applied to pull the sheet metal to its original squareness, thus completing the unibody alignment. Bodywork is now initiated by mechanically preparing the unevenness of the panel for more straightening. A specialized electric nail gun is now used to spot weld wire lugs to the inverted curvatures of the panel. A slide hammer is fastened to each of these wire lugs, and outward thrusts are applied, as well as a gradual hammering around the area. The dips are now removed. The wire lugs are now clipped, and the surface is ground flat. Catalyzed plastic filler is applied to cover any remaining unevenness of the sheet metal and is allowed to harden. The plastic filler is now sanded flat with the use of a special air sander with the complement of a vacuum attachment. Another smaller sander is used to feather the painted perimeter of the repaired area. All areas that are not affected by the repair are covered with masking paper, corrosion-resistant epoxy primer is applied. Allowed to dry, and a primer surfacer is then applied and allowed to dry. The primer is then block sanded, primed again, and then block sanded again. The car is now wet scuffed on the areas to be painted, paying close attention to all edges to ensure edge peeling does not occur. The car now moves to the paint booth where it is dried, masked, papered, and covered with what closely resembles a giant garbage bag that guards against unwanted overspray. Areas surrounding where paint is to be applied are trimmed away and tape is applied to the remaining plastic. Wax and grease removal solvent is applied to alleviate contamination and ensure maximum adhesion. The paint technician then removes lint from the repaired panel and applies a coat of corrosion-resistant epoxy sealer. And removes the masking paper from the door, which is used as a color blending panel. After the sealer has had sufficient time to dry, a urethane color coat is sprayed on the repaired panel and all replacement parts that require paint. After a number of color coats are applied and panels are color blended, several coats of acrylic urethane clear are applied as a final finish. The car now moves into an infrared baking booth after the plastic and paper is removed. Here the atmosphere and heat and time are regulated, allowing excellent force drying at a maximum temperature of 140 degrees. This particular car requires a painted pinstripe, which is applied after baking. Next, all new panels, parts, and pieces are installed and checked for proper fit and alignment. A very light wet sand is used to remove any dust particles trapped within the clear coat finish. And a final polish revives the luster. The car is now fully detailed, starting with the application of a non-silicone hang glaze to the newly refinished panels, followed by the vacuuming and dusting of the interior, the detailing is completed by cleaning the white walls and washing the exterior. Emerging from behind the scenes, the finished product ready for the customer to pick up. a lot more than a couple dozen parts in a paint job. It is now back to near original condition, the body squared and aligned to travel the highway straight and safe. All parts fit properly and a painted surface that will withstand the elements. Maybe just a before and after to some, without realizing the inside story.